Hello, just a short note, really, with some senses of things. I know a lot of us, talk about the state of our country and the sort of like the crisis that it's in, yeah, and yeah, it sure is in a crisis, and we do seem to be heading towards a kind of very perilous period of our history, I'd say, really, especially the UK, yeah. But what I wanted to say in part was that I think it's important to understand this is not just something which is like against Britain or against the UK, yeah. It's not just that, yeah. It's also really against the culture of Europe, but against all the cultures of Europe, really, and against the peoples of Europe, yeah. It really is. And I think we have to properly understand it and see it in that fashion. Yeah, I'm very heartened by some things I see happening in Europe because Europe is actually in a better state than the UK is. The rest of Europe, so the European mainland, is in a better state than the UK is, and in a sense, the UK and especially England is almost like the canary in the European coal mine. Yeah, this is what you need to learn from. Yeah, the sort of appalling situation we have here, where we're losing free speech and we're having increasing authoritarian control, and we have in effect a sort of mutated a mutated form of socialism in a way, and I mean socialism in this not in the sense that people talk about socialism in this country traditionally, which is essentially social liberalism with some, you know, some kind of Marxist terminology piped on the edges or something. Yeah, I mean actual socialism like state socialism. I mean really, our present prime minister, I can't imagine him as being somebody who with any kind of dreams other than of being a senior a sort of like a senior politician in something like the old DDR. Yeah, he's not being termed Keir Stasi for nothing, you know. But yeah. Anyway, I think it's true that we do like face a collective threat and a collective problem in Europe, and it is a European problem, and that's where we stand. And I think the fact that the peoples of Europe should take heart from each other. The actual peoples of Europe should take heart from each other and from each other's resistances to these processes, and we must, I think, in some sense, have this joining up the dots. Yeah, because we need each other. We really do. Now, I think it's really ironic as well, because post Brexit, the sort of people who went on and on and on about Europe did it in a way which was to say, there's Europe and now there's the UK, and we've left Europe simply because we had left the European Union, which was a technocratic, non democratic organization. Yeah, the EU was never Europe. Yeah, don't be ridiculous. Yeah, so but the funny thing is, the very people who went on about Europe are the very people who actually love the very elites, and this sort of like the sort of what people have termed neoliberal, policies. Yeah, and certainly the kind of elite policies coming out of places like Davos. They were the people who were the fans of these things, which are the very thing which is threatening the peoples of Europe. And I just think it shows that so much of this supposed pro-European stance was actually a scam in many ways. It really was. It was just a scam to dupe people, you know. I don't blame people, who say who were from the rest of Europe, and living in the UK, and then being concerned about Brexit. I don't blame them. I mean, especially now, given when you see just how utterly iniquitous and authoritarian our government actually is. And it's always been like that, either in sort of like sleepwalking slow terms, or as is now, apparently consciously and intentionally. I don't blame them for being concerned. They were right to be concerned, actually, really. And we were wrong to trust them. But I still do not agree with the EU at all. Yeah, not one little bit. But it's ironic that the very people who, yeah, those sort of like, middle class British people who were such enormous fans of the EU, yeah, uh, quite often they seem to have actually really loved the elites that are actually destroying Europe, and like colluding in its destruction. But you know, uh, I don't think the people of Europe are going to let them get away with it. Yeah. As I said, I think that Britain, and especially England, is the canary in the coal mine. People should look here and see what has happened. You have to stop this happening to you. You really do. Um, and I hope you do. And for us, well, we must simply do whatever we can. Yeah. But anyway, I wish everyone a very good week, and keep well, keep positive, and feel good about yourselves. Okay? Speak soon.